Hello everyone, it's Silvia from Fairlight Tarot. Welcome back onto my channel. Today we're going to have a look at my favorite tarot spreads. And these are tarot spreads that I keep on using over and over again because let's face it, when we're using tarot but also oracle decks, sometimes we just fall back into the safe and the usual, the 3 cards pull, sometimes even the Celtic cross, or a version of the 3 cards pull, which is actually developed into 9 cards. But we don't really know about new spreads, and with today I just wanted to show you a number of spreads. I think it's 5 or 6 spreads that I really love, and I'm going to give a shout out to the persons that posted these spreads because I find it a very creative process when I do that myself. For example, with my Sunlight and Starlight members, when we're doing the decan walk, for example, I create and customize a spread for each and every decan, and I also do that with my Starlight members for each and every episode of our healing step by step, or also our tarot roadmap to the inner child. I come up with a customized spread, and it's not the easiest thing in the world, let me tell you. It does take a lot of imagination, but also knowledge of tarot and what tarot can do for you, and in order to also find the right positions or the right wording, it is not the easiest thing. It is a very creative process, and it's also lots of fun. So in this case, none of the spreads that I'm going to show you today are by myself. I did not create any of them, but as I said, I'm going to quote and give a shout to all of the fantastic creators that came up with these. So I'm going to use my mini deck simply because if you know, you know. So basically, whenever we're using tarot spreads, it occupies a lot of space when you use a standard size tarot deck. So using minis it just makes sense, you know, it's more practical. And I do have a few of them. They're really mini, teeny tiny ones by Llewellyn. So we've got the Witch's Tarot, the Gilded Tarot Royale by Ciro Marchetti, and the Mystical Manga Tarot. And also I have a pocket edition, which is not as tiny as the other ones, but it's a smaller version of the Osho Zen Tarot. So let's do this. So by the way, I also forgot to mention that I'm using this bandana as a tarot map, and it's a really beautiful one because I bought it at the Bornean Sunbear Conservation Center, which is in Sepilok, close to Sandakan in Borneo in Sabah. I don't know if you've ever been there. This is more like a rescue center, so just in case if you are sensible to cruelty towards animals, I do not recommend going there. Not because there is cruelty being done towards animals at the rescue center, but because the sun bears that have been rescued, they come from very, how should I say this, very difficult situations in which they were kept as pets. Not in the best sanitary conditions, and what happens is that when they're 3-4 years old, obviously, and they have been found by the good people of the rescue center, they unfortunately had already developed some kind of mental discomfort, and it is incredibly difficult for them to heal, which is what they're trying to do at the Sunbear Conservation Center in Borneo. It is a fantastic place. When we went there, we actually made a donation because, you know me, I'm a sucker for animals, and obviously I was there. I couldn't bear to be there and look at the bears. Many of them were patterning, which is creating, going down the same pattern of movements over and over again. That is a self-soothing kind of mechanism that animals that have been abused sometimes, unfortunately have to process in order to soothe themselves. And it tells a lot about the conditions in which they have been found. In any case, I really wanted to, you know, talk about these guys because they're doing a fantastic job. But going back into tarot, because we're here to have a look at the spreads. So now that we're in August, I think that a lot of us had to do some kind of a taking stocks of what's happening this year in 2024, because obviously we're just over the first part of the year, and it is when everyone kind of realizes that, oh my gosh, the year is not all of it in front of me. I don't have months and months in order to achieve the goals that I planned at the beginning of the year. As a matter of fact, we only have 4 or 5 months left, so obviously there is this sense of panic, and I feel that taking stock, but also making a point of what we have accomplished and the energies that remain to cover the rest of the year is an excellent way to use tarot. So this spread is called the Mid-Year Check-In Tarot Spread by Starlight and Sage. And it's a spread that I find incredibly useful. It is a rather large spread, as you can see, and so I'm going to use a mini. So I'm going to use the Mystical Manga Tarot by Ran and Barbara Moore. This is the mini and also the standard size edition are both by Llewellyn. So we're going to, so what I'm trying to do is focusing on the spread. What happens to me, and from what I can see to other tarot readers in general, is that whenever we try and get away with the sample reading, it's never really a sample reading. There's always a lot of energies that we channel ourselves. I'm going to try and make it as simple as possible, and I'm not going to read too much into the cards because this is not a reading that I'm doing for myself, even though I do these kind of readings for myself. But today I'm just going to show you the spreads. So I'm just going to quickly shuffle. So as I was saying, these are the spreads that I use the most, and as such, they obviously come at certain specific time, either of the year. Let's say, obviously this one talks about the mid-year check-in tarot spread, but there's also other ones. There will be one about the full moon. There will be one that I use all the time when Mercury goes into retrograde. And again, if you know, you know. And then there's other spreads, which, it just adds up a little bit of creativity, a little bit of spice into your daily draw, because I believe that every now and then we need to rekindle with the tarot practice that we've had for many, many years, in many cases, like in myself, for many decades. So obviously it kind of loses power, if you know what I mean. And in order to give that power back, it is a great idea. There's a number of things that you can do, but it is a great idea to use some different spreads than the ones you would always or mostly use. So without much further ado, the mid-year check-in tarot spread. So I'm just going to, as I said, just draw the cards, and we're not going to spend too much time because this video is to focus on the spread, not necessarily on the readings. So we've got in this position, let me see if it fits in the camera. Yes, it does. A bit awkward. A card to begin the second half of the year. And in this case, we got the Hangman. So obviously, we're looking into a different perspective, and this is kind of normal. Progress of seeds planted in early 2024, because we also need to take stock, or make a point of what we've done. And we've got the World, and obviously this point of a very successful beginning of the year. And then we got action to take to reach my goals with the Judgment card. And I know perfectly well what this card is telling me to do, so I'm not going to go too deeper into a reading in this case, but this is basically when you get the Judgment card in reference to an action, it's always about making sure that you right all the wrongs. A key thing coming in this year. So a key thing in this case, it's the Tower, and I couldn't welcome it more because there's a number of things in my life that at this point really do exist just, by a small, very thin thread. So the Tower is obviously going to give me the possibility to, let these things go because they don't suit me anymore. Then we've got outside influences, positive or negative, and we are finally getting a non-major arcana, because I was trying to, I was starting to worry about this pull. But anyway, we got the Seven of Wands, so outside influences, positive or negative. Obviously, there is this sense of being there out on a limb, but not necessarily know what I'm doing, but having to stick to my guns. And sometimes the energy of the Seven of Wands is exactly what it feels like. Who or what will assist me? And we've got the Eight of Cups. And in this case, it almost feels like I need to look elsewhere for this kind of assistance. The Eight of Cups breaks up with a situation that no longer serves us. Again, with the Tower card, seems to pair up with that. And then we've got a wild card for the rest of the year. And as a wild card, I've got the Page of Swords. And the Page of Swords to me is the archetype of the detective, is the person who is always asking why. They always want to know why, the why of things. Why do they happen? How do they happen? And how can we make sure to do to get the best out of them? And so this one is theme card for the rest of 2024, and it is the Queen of Swords, and that is my significator. The Queen of Swords is the archetype of the judge, the person that is very resilient because they have seen everything, they have been through everything, they accept the shades of gray because they know that everything is either black or white. So it is a very interesting approach to this card, the theme card for the rest of the year. I'm going to have to be resilient, obviously, but I'm also going to have to be to come to terms with things. Then obviously we got at the bottom, we got a few cards that will signify the months. So I'm just going to pull them quickly. We've got the July with the King of Cups. Obviously we're in August. Then we've got the Sun for August, which brings joy for sure. I'm on holiday, I'm vacationing, I'm actually traveling, so that always brings light into my life. Then we got September with the Nine of Wands, which is going to be a bit of a hectic kind of month for me. I already know that, but this card points to resilience. Then we've got October with the Four of Swords, which is kind of a given after a very full month like the month of September. A bit of rest is always positive. November will come with the Eight of Swords, which is not entirely a good card because it will feel like I'm actually a prisoner of my own cage. So I will have to be very honest with myself and understand what this card is trying to tell me. And then last but not least, the month of December with the Eight of Pentacles, that really gives me the idea of doubling down into what I'm doing. The work that I've chosen to do is the right thing to do, and I'm going down the right path. So as you can see, I'm choosing deliberately not to spend too much time on the readings, otherwise this video will be very long. But what we want to do today is to point or give you the possibility to take one or two ideas out of these spreads in case you feel like your daily pull has lost its power. And the next spread is actually called the New Moon Tarot spread. So obviously, as you can imagine, it is to be used on a new moon, and it's by Little Dark Press. I absolutely love their decks, and I have to say their Instagram account is fantastic because they do publish every now and then some really interesting spreads. And for this one in specific, we're going to use Ellen Dugan's Witch's Tarot, and the artwork is by Mark Evans. A mini, again, because that's the way to do these kind of things. I honestly believe that the first person who invented the minis, if there is such a person, first of all, thank you. And second of all, I really think that they did that because they know that people use a lot of large spreads, and sometimes we just don't have enough room. So I'm just going to quickly shuffle the deck. Okay, so let's have a look. So we're looking at position number 1, how the moon finds me this month. And we've got the Eight of Swords. So the Eight of Swords, I kind of understand that because at the time of filming, we're actually going through the Mercury Retrograde. And it just so happens that when you're traveling, Mercury Retrograde is not the best ally, because whenever you're doing any kind of planning, and especially when you're trying to book something, all of a sudden everything is sold out, or the flights are sold out, or the hotels are sold sold out, or all of the tours or the experiences you want to book. Until yesterday, everything was fine. There was absolutely no problem in booking anything. And all of a sudden, because it's Mercury retrograde, you feel like you're in a cage, you don't know where to go. All of a sudden, you're either spending like 3 times as what you planned to spend, or there's just no availability. So I do get it. What she's coming to teach me in position number 2, and we got the 4 of Cups. Okay, so the 4 of Cups, obviously, in this case, it's coming here to tell me that I should stop worrying. I should stop feeling this sense of not being able to grasp anything, not being able to enjoy anything, because these are the things that happen when you travel. Sometimes, things or don't go as according to your plans. We just here, and we just need to enjoy whatever it is that we're doing and the company that we have. Something difficult to embrace, let's see, because I'm very curious about this card, the 5 of Pentacles. And this is definitely going with, a couple of bookings that I had to bite the bullet with this morning. We missed out on booking a couple of flights, and now the only bookings available were for a very expensive fare. And that obviously was a bit of a dent on the travel budget that we've got. So that really points to the loss of the 5 of Pentacles, but these things happen. So I get it. So something to surrender safely. Really curious to see this one as well. And we got the 8 of Cups. And look, it is that letting go of that moment in which we try and do everything perfectly. We try and keep on control over everything. This is the letting go of the 8 of Cups, points to the emotions. And honestly, to me, that is probably the most difficult one to let go of. But it's fine, because this position says something to surrender safely. So I can safely surrender that. This one is how I create momentum until the full moon, and it's the Empress. And that's pointing to the nutrition, the nourishing, the fact that I always need to be looking after myself and my husband, obviously, and reaching out for that kind of safety that we can create for each other. And last but not least, long-term significance of this lunar phase. And that's why over all of the new moon spreads that you can find out there, I actually really appreciate this one, and that's the one that I'm using the most, because it actually gives you a bit of balance between the things that are difficult to accept, the things that are easy to surrender, but also it gives you an idea that not everything stops in the moment where you are. So the new moon is always indicating cycles. So when we're looking at cycles, we're looking at an ending, but also looking at a new beginning. So the 4 of Swords, in this case, I get it, because there is that sense of stillness that needs to be acknowledged. And I have actually postponed that for myself for quite some time. So I will need to do that, and probably taking advantage of this new moon, I will definitely start looking into this even more. So the next tarot spread is about Mercury retrograde, and it's by one of my favorite Instagram accounts when it comes to sharing these really fantastic spreads, and it's Moon Mama Oracle. So I really appreciate all of the spreads. There's a lot of spreads. I think that they post something like 2 spreads every day, if I'm not mistaken. I don't use all of them, but I have to say I do save a lot of them in my Instagram account, because I really do appreciate them. And we're going to use for this one in specific, because it is for Mercury retrograde, and it's actually called Mercury Retro Check-In. We're going to use the Gilded Tarot Real by Ciro Marchetti. And it's going to be a fun one, because honestly, there's always, you guys know that there's different influences when we're talking about Mercury retrograde. We don't always feel the influence of this retrograde at the same level. Not all of us, it depends on our planets as well. Obviously, for some planets, in some cases, will have more impact. But I have to be honest with you, this time it's been kind of catastrophic for me, really. So let's see what this spread is telling me. And I have to say, this is, again, you can find an infinite number of spreads for Mercury retrograde, but this one is actually very, very interesting. and you'll see why, because like many other spreads by Mumana Oracle, there's always a lot of balance. It is a very grounding kind of spread, and you know, because when you're going through Mercury retrograde, that's what you lose, right? You lose balance when it comes to communication and also to technology, and that is something that you definitely need to bring back into your life. So let's have a look. And okay. So let's start with this one. So one card to represent my energy this retrograde, and my energy is the Ten of Pentacles. My energy in this case is related to the alchemical element of earth that is, you know, reminded by the Suit of Pentacles in this deck. I always want to be in touch with nature. I always want to be at one with nature and with myself and with my husband whenever we are traveling. So I can definitely relate to this card. This is definitely my energy during this retrograde. Whether it pans out or not is a different story. But let's have a look at the second card. So this one says, what do I need to focus on while Mercury is in retrograde? And it tells me to focus on joy, basically, on the sun. But the joy of the sun, it's kind of ephemeral in the sense that it really comes and goes. It's very short. It's very related to something very light, and that can really go away in a second. So obviously this card, it's telling me to hold on to this joy, hold on to the possibility that this actually points out for me, and not necessarily think that it's something impermanent, but you know, just try and hang on to that. And it's also because I strongly believe, and I always say that if you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you will remember that I always say to celebrate the little things. Just make sure that you celebrate them, because you need to create good memories, because those good memories will be a source of fuel, of energy whenever you're going to go through bad times. So obviously this is basically telling me back what I always say. So when we're looking at card number 3, we've got where is the growth potential this retrograde? So the Page of Swords. This is telling me that I need to go deeper into things, obviously, because there is growth potential, and the growth potential is definitely triggered whenever you try and understand the why of things, the how. How do things work? Why do they work? What is happening in my life right now? So I definitely feel this air energy that is given by the Page of Swords. It's obviously a very beginner kind of a energy, because we are looking at a page, so obviously throughout the court cards is the apprentice. But I do understand where this card is coming from, so definitely understand the growth potential, where it could be, because I need to get into the why of things. And the next one is, how can I work through communication problems this retrograde? And that is absolutely what I need to check in. So the Hanged One. So the Hanged One is obviously telling me that I need to change perspective. Perhaps, you know, the fool is the person that keeps on doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And perhaps I'm being a fool right now. If things don't work in a certain way, I need to try and do that in a different way. So, you know, let's welcome a new perspective. I always love change because, you know, you find out stuff that you would have never thought in a million years. Then let's have a look at the next position. So this one says, what would my guides like me to know during this transit? So that is a very important card for me, because now more than ever, I feel really, really close to my guides. To me, my guides are my ancestors, and a few persons that were part of my life and that are no longer there. And so I feel them very close to me. I've been thinking about them for a while now, and I feel their presence in my life. So the Queen of Pentacles, I know who she is. So this is one of my closest friends who unfortunately passed away, and that was her signifier. Absolutely, she was the Queen of Pentacles I would say, by everything she was doing. She was just exuding that kind of energy. And what would my guys like me to know during this transit? I think that she just wants me to know that she's there with me, and I appreciate that. And last but not least, let's have a look at position number 6. So we have got the Ace of Cups for the card. What affirmation do I need during Mercury Retrograde? Just love yourself, love others, love everything that you're doing, trying to find the emotional strength of going through things, because obviously Mercury Retrograde, you know, it's taking a toll on each and every one of us. And so let's just get in touch with our heart, because that is the best way to face something. So the next spread is by one of my favorite accounts on Instagram. It's called the Tarot Diagnosis, and they have some really fantastic spreads. So I highly recommend, if you do have an Instagram account, to just log in and follow them, because they're always, let's say, they're combining some aspect of cognitive behavioral therapy and psychology in general to tarot, and they do that in one of the most efficient ways I've ever seen. I absolutely love everything that they do. They do a lot of workshops as well, although they do tend to sell out pretty quickly. So if you want to participate, I highly recommend you get in touch with them. So I'm going to use, this one is called the Tarot Diagnosis Healing and Releasing, which is one of my favorite of their spreads. And I'm going to use the Osho Zen Tarot in a pocket edition. Because the Osho Zen Tarot by itself is one of those decks that I really like to use whenever there is these kind of readings in which I need to get in touch with myself. And so I really appreciate the possibility to apply the very intuitive nature of this deck to these spreads, which are in many cases are actually very moving, very touching, because they do need to tear down some barriers of recognition. You know, sometimes we do build up barriers and boundaries in order to be able not to get hurt. But we don't necessarily heal with that. And so healing needs to bring about a moment of truth. And the Osho Zen, I believe the Osho Zen, at least it works for me, it works that way. Obviously, it doesn't necessarily have to be the tarot you will use. If you want to use this spread in specific, just use any kind of deck that you feel like will work really well with this kind of prompt. So in this case, what are we looking at? Healing and releasing. So card number 1, the emotional healing I need. And of course, I pulled the Four of Swords, which seems to be, I don't know if you realized it by now, you probably would have, that it is kind of my stalker card. In the last couple of days, I have been really exhausted. We have been kind of unwell, but it's kind of those things in which, you know, if you're a traveler, you know, we're not tourists, we don't, sometimes we go on a holiday to relax, but most of the time what we want to do is explore, get in touch with the locals, learn as much as we can at the culture. And obviously, you know, at a certain point, I'm not 20 years old anymore, so obviously it is taking a toll on my health. And the last couple of days I've been really exhausted. So the emotional healing I need is a kind of a moment for myself to just try and understand what I need to recuperate that energy that has been lost. And let's have a look at card number 2. So we'll see here is the physical healing I need. And this is the Nine of Pentacles, and I absolutely love this card. And you will see the reason why I use this deck is because each and every time it really comes through for me, and it really does pair up really well with these kind of readings. So of course, that's the physical healing I need, is to get back in touch with nature, perhaps even eat more fruits, or really get in connect with my nutritional needs. For example, we're in a foreign country, I don't have access to the stuff that I usually eat, but guess what? I mean, here the fruits are just absolutely fantastic. We're in Southeast Asia, so obviously there's a variety of fruit that I don't even have back in Sydney, or at least not for reasonable prices, and here it's just absolutely amazing. And so I really love to look at the actual card and the drawing that it is in the card, the images that point to this wonderful and very appetizing kind of fruit. And then we're looking at card number 3, which is talking about unhealthy patterns to release. And this is the Six of Cups. And the Six of Cups is the nostalgia. It's the fact that whenever we are facing something in real life right now that doesn't necessarily help us, or it makes us feel that like we're going through something difficult, we tend to take refuge into the past. This is the kind of pattern that I have to release because it's unhealthy. It may feel like it's something giving me the strength that I need at the moment, but finding refuge into a past where things were easier is definitely not going to help in the long term. So I definitely agree with that card. This is turning out to be a very strong reading. And card number 4 is the support I need while I heal and release. And in this case, we're still in the Suit of Cups, so the suit of the heart, let's say. Looking at emotions and feelings and letting go is a fantastic card, because if you look at the image in this card, you will see that there is this drop of dew that is actually being released, or letting itself go from the leaf, which is the last home, into a much more vast home, which is this body of water, which could be a lake, for example. I really, really appreciate this card and the letting go, renaming of the card itself. Most of the time when you look at the Eight of Cups in any other deck, you will have this sense of separation. However, in this case, even though there is a separation, because obviously the drop of dew does not know what will happen to them when they release the leaf, but they will be met with water itself, which is actually part of what they are. So it's almost as if it were telling me that I need to release something I'm not a part of in order to become a part of something that is in connection with my essence. So as you can see, this is a fantastic, really fantastic spread. I highly recommend it. And the next spread, it is also very interesting for the times in our lives in which we feel like we're overwhelmed. And it's indeed called the Overwhelming Tarot Spread by Bybee Tarot. Absolutely love all of their spreads. Very clear, very simple, but very direct. So I highly recommend this one as well. So Overwhelming Tarot Spread, I'm still going to use the Osho Zen Tarot for the reasons why I was talking about earlier. And I have just reshuffled the deck, so I'm ready to pull the card now. So let's see. The position number 1 is, how can I better manage what I am feeling? Traveling. Well, yes, of course. I will never say no to travel. This is the Eight of Wands, obviously the Eight of Fire, and it's the expression and release of a lot of fire energy. So how can I better manage what I am feeling in this case? Because of the renaming of the card with the word traveling, to me points to do what I do best, or do what really makes me happy. And try and understand that even though the umbrella term traveling can signify a lot of things, I need to find what best suits me. So traveling, what does that mean for me? Where do I find the energy of traveling, and how do I use it in the best possible way? So how can I better manage what I'm feeling is by getting the energy, the fire energy that I may have lost in the connecting again with the way in which I love to travel. So what the position number 2 is, what are my feelings telling me? Well, there's a major arcana in this case, and it's the creativity. I absolutely love that we're looking at the Empress right now, because one of the keywords of the Empress is creativity, but one other keywords of the Empress is nourishing, nurturing, and I really feel that my feelings are pointing me, they're kind of pushing me towards that direction of being more creative for sure, but also being nourishing towards myself in order to be able to recuperate. And if you remember that I was telling earlier that my Stalker card in the last couple of weeks, or not really weeks, but let's say in the last 4 or 5 days has been the Four of Swords. So obviously I need to recuperate those kind of energies that I have lost. And position number 3 is here. So how can I help others who are struggling? And if you know me, you will know how important this is for me. I am always driven by compassion. Compassion is the most important thing. I certainly love to hear about more ways in which I can help others. So how can I best help others who are struggling at the moment is ordinariness. Now, this is the Eight of Pentacles. The Eight of Pentacles in any other deck would point to doubling down or sticking to your discipline and certainly not stopping what you're doing right now. But the Eight of Pentacles in the Osho Zen is actually a really beautiful card, as you can see. And it's the person that is already walking under the shade of these really, really beautiful blossoming trees. But at the same time, they are basking in the joy of looking at this wonderful part of creation. But at the same time, they're also, spreading these seeds because they know that no matter how magnificent it is, what we're looking at and the things that are around us, we need to be contributing and we need to be perpetuating this cycle of nature. So obviously, when I look into helping others that are struggling at the moment, I need to understand that everything has a cycle and we are a part of this cycle. Each and every one of us has a very specific role in nature, and so perhaps giving them the opportunity to express themselves and understanding what they're going through and absolutely being there for them, but at the same time enjoying the fact that I am also going through this really beautiful alley formed by these blossoming flowers and the trees around me. And last but not least, what is the lesson in this, which is a really beautiful card, prompt. Now, the card is not that beautiful, but I don't know whether I posted, it must have been a video that I posted for my members, because we've actually studied the Sacred Sheet Tarot. We also did a live in which we were comparing card by card the Osho Zen Tarot, which has also been illustrated by Madhava Padma, who's the illustrator and creator of the Sacred Sheet Tarot, with the Sacred Sheet. So we were comparing the Osho Zen and the Sacred Sheet and the let's say the RWS. And to be honest with you, I am not a fan of the court cards in the Suit of Swords of the Osho Zen, because personally I just don't feel this overwhelming negative impact of the cards. I know that the Suit of Swords can feel sometimes a bit negative. To me, it's not. I come from a 99% combination of air in my birth chart, so obviously the element of air is something I feel very in connection with. Control is the king, it's not control for me. It's when you get to the point of managing your emotional intelligence and at the same time your normal intelligence. So you actually use the best of those two worlds. You can master what you feel, but at the same time you also know how to relate everything to the world that is around you. It is the archetype of the scientist or the experts, because there is this acknowledgement of what you can do. You have definitely mastered everything that you know. But to me, it doesn't speak about control. It can be seen as control in the sense that you know how to control your own feelings. So when seen that way, I kind of can be on board with that, but I feel that the combination between the image on the card and the keyword itself actually points to something rather negative. There seems to be a containment of energy, and it's not a positive containment. These hands, for example, here, they're just, they're closing a fist, which is not something that I would definitely associate with the good part of control. So it's not necessarily a card that I like. But when I refer to the energy of the King of Swords, I can definitely feel that the lesson in this is to be able to know myself to the best of my knowledge and understand myself and accept myself. because we're talking about the overwhelming tarot spread. So that was it. So we've talked about my top 5, let's say, tarot spreads that are used for a very specific time of the years or very specific time of my life. And I have shown the spreads, and I've talked about them, by using the mini decks that I've got. I would be very interested to know if you are on Instagram, or if you know of perhaps someone with a website that releases regularly new spreads. I'm always very, very interested because I do believe that it's a way that we have to re-empower our daily draw. So please let me know in the comments below. But for now, thank you so much for watching and have a great day.